Josh, you got the keys?
Investigators to confirm that. We know that speed was definitely a factor. But also the family of this driver.
All right, sir, go ahead and begin. Yeah, removing the roof from the vehicle where the actual confirmed fatality was. The coroner just arrived on the scene, and the coroner's going to...
She's at 111 right now. Obviously assisting validations with the BVM. Last 1, 2, 3. Palpation. Open fracture to the right.
Many spread channels on the right. X-ray, X-ray.
Okay, pupils are about 3 millimeters selectively reactive. Glasgow coma scale is 3. Not breathing well, so we're going to prepare to intubate here. There's evidence of depressed skull fracture. We have some extrusion of brain matter too. Right side, right forehead. Can we get some etomidate and succinylcholine?
X-ray, X-ray. Come on in, come on in. We can all work together.
Continue bagging the patient. We've got multiple injuries. Okay, we have asystole now. Continue CPR, please.
I don't know what else.
Any other ideas?
Not with that massive head injury, I don't believe so.
Okay, pronounce this time.
Pronounce the patient now. What time is it?
11:43.
Okay. 11:43. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Terry.
I'm Kevin, Cindy's
one
dad.
of the nurses here. Come on in and sit down.
Okay.
This is Dr. Pryor, our trauma surgeon.
Yeah, have a seat, Mr. Gates.
Okay.
Dr. Pryor, Dr. Fahringer, with the
Hi,
doctor.
trauma team here, social worker, and our charge nurse. You're aware that your daughter was in a car accident?
Yes,
Right.
they called me.
All right. So there was a lot of damage to the vehicle, a lot of damage to her, and when she came in, she was not responding well at all. So we did a number of maneuvers, a number of activities to try and bring her back, but I'm sorry to tell you there was nothing else we could do.
Let's call a case of Taylor Gerard, the defense president, represented by counsel, people represented. Both sides having rested, we're prepared to proceed with closing arguments. People, you prepared to give a closing argument?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen,
When we first started this trial, I talked to you about the law of murder. We talked about what is required for someone to be found guilty of the crime of murder. And one of the things that I shared with you was that there is no requirement in the state of California for someone to intend to kill another human being in order to be found guilty of murder. On the night of this horrendous collision, he was not okay to drive a car. You heard testimony from Sergeant Benson, who told you that based on her many years of experience as a drug recognition expert, she knew when she did the evaluation that night that he was impaired. And as a result of that, two lives have been lost. And as you evaluate the evidence in this case and you determine whether or not he's guilty of the crime of murder, I want you to think about one thing, and that is, it is not okay to take a risk with other people's lives. The death of Sydney in Georgia lies squarely at his feet. He made a choice that night. He knew better. He knew this was dangerous. He ignored it. And there's no amount of justice that will bring back Georgia and Sydney. But he needs to be held accountable for what he did that night. Thank you.
There was a tragedy. And I'm not going to get up here and tell you that he is a perfect person, that he was a perfect student, but I'm going to tell you right now, he is not guilty of the crime that he's charged with. Because you all are here to do the right thing. That's who you are, even when it's the hard thing to do. So let's talk about the evidence here. That's supposed to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Taylor is guilty of taking these lives. Because we're not here for vengeance. It's easy to walk out of this court and just want vengeance. Justice isn't vengeance. We heard that Sergeant Benson did some FSTs, field sobriety tests, on my client out at the scene. We heard that these field sobriety tests are tests of balancing, of coordination, that there was no evidence that anybody knew that Taylor was particularly good at balancing on one leg, which is what he was basically asked to do. But Taylor, terrified, sad, traumatized, who's just lost a friend, who is expected to put all of that out of his head and start balancing and walking with his heels to his toes perfectly like a ballerina. It's on that evidence that you're being asked to convict him of murder. 2 counts of murder. Abide by your oath as jurors. Look at all the evidence, every piece of it. And I guarantee when you take a hard look at the evidence and you continue to do the right thing, the hard thing, you will find that he is not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. All right. Based upon the evidence that was presented at this trial, based upon the witness testimony, all of the evidence that was presented, the court does find you, Mr. Gerard, guilty. Your sentence on count 1, the violation of Penal Code Section 187, that's second-degree murder, to a mandatory sentence of 15 years to life. In addition, and consecutive to that, you receive an additional 15 years to life on count 2 for an aggregate sentence of 30 years to life. You get credits of actual time only. Pursuant to Penal Code Section 2933, you are not entitled to any good time, work time. In addition, pay a $300 restitution fine, pay a $300 parole revocation fine, and a fine as order of state, pay a $30 criminal conviction fee. The defense remanded in this case.
I'm finding a notice of appeal with the clerk.
All right, very good. That's good. Court's adjourned.
Okay, sorry, you're remanded. Hands behind your back, lock your fingers. Lock your fingers together. Okay, palms forward.
my best friend. Although I feel like best friend isn't even a strong enough word to even come close to describe how much that girl meant to me. I feel like today, such a big piece of me is missing because one of the most important parts of my life is missing. I don't know what it's going to be like now, walking to class, walking to math class, sitting next to an empty desk, someone I used to goof with, text with, you know, send funny pictures or just smile at when the teacher said something funny. There are no words to describe this kind of loss. That's all I really have come to understand today is that words are not enough to describe the feeling of this kind of loss. Tell her I love her, I don't know how much she means to me one more time, because it is true that when they say that you never know when the last time is the last time. So, my life is never going to be the same again without her. Thank you.
I don't think you're ever prepared for something like this to happen, whether it's a child, a brother, a sister, a mother, or a father. I will say that my daughter lived life, enjoyed her friends, enjoyed the ocean, loved animals, and I know that God has gained another angel. Life can be short. Take this opportunity, all of you, to love one